This is Michael Popok reporting on some breaking and bad news coming out of Georgia. The Georgia Supreme Court has overturned a decision, at least for now, of a lower court, Judge McBurney, in which he had found that there was a right for a woman to choose, a right to have reproductive autonomy, and to have up to 22 weeks to make that decision under Georgia law and Georgia's Constitution, not according to the Supreme Court. They had originally sent it to McBurney. They told McBurney, go look in the Georgia Constitution and tell us whether you think there is a right to privacy and liberty that inures to a benefit of a woman in Georgia, allowing her to exercise that autonomy, to get an abortion and not carry to term something that she does not want to, at least up to 22 weeks. And the judge said yes. He used language that I talked about last week about we don't live in a handmaid's tale society where commanders can force a woman to carry another being to term. But the Georgia Supreme Court disagrees. And now we've got, there are 9 total votes on the Georgia Supreme Court. 2 disqualified themselves or didn't vote. Of the 7, 6, or at least 6.5, decided against Judge McBurney and blocked his decision, cutting off access once again to abortion services in Georgia. In the 4 days between his last decision and 5 o'clock on Monday, when the new blocking order goes into effect by Georgia abortion clinics and reproductive rights clinics opened for business again, at least offering abortion services to women up to, anywhere between 12 and 22 weeks. But now the gate is coming down again on women in Georgia. And it's because of the Georgia Supreme Court. No, it's because of Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump conspired with the Federalist Society and Leonard Leo and Supreme Court justices that denied that they were going to do exactly this, rip away a woman's right to choose during their confirmation hearings, including Brett Kavanaugh, including Amy Coney Barrett, including Gorsuch. They all genuflected and said, it is supreme, super precedent, Roe versus Wade. We would never disturb it. We have to respect it. And the first thing they did when they had the numbers is they took it away and ripped away a woman's right to choose. And then they said, we're going to leave it to the states. That's what Donald Trump, the platform he's running on. Leave it to the states. That's what nobody wanted. He says everybody wanted it. Nobody wanted to have removed from them a constitutional protection over their bodily autonomy so that we would leave it to a popular vote state by state, reducing women to second-class citizens without equal protection in this country. Who would give up a constitutional right? What moron besides Donald Trump would argue that a group of people granted a constitutional right under the U.S. Constitution, the most sacred thing you could be given, what should be immune from attack, would want it ripped away and put it up to a popular vote of MAGA in states that they control? Oh, who signs up for that? Nobody. And now we're seeing the result. Georgia joins 21 other red states that have reduced their women voters and women to second-class citizens. There's no other way to put it. And now abortion is once again, but more importantly than the word abortion, which has its own sort of baggage, is a woman's right to choose and her own reproductive health and family planning choices with either herself or in conjunction with her family or whatever it is. That's now removed, and it's on the ballot. 10 states in the United States, along with Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, down ballot has a referendum to declare once and for all in that state, in those 10 states, that there is a state constitutional right for a woman to choose. That's 10 states. So abortion is on the ballot. A woman's right to choose is on the ballot, at least in 10 states, but I would argue it's on the ballot in all 50 states. Because the only way you can send the message that you will not allow the government to take away your bodily autonomy and reduce you to second-class citizen and those who support women is to vote the bastards out. And don't vote Donald Trump in. And make sure that both sides of the House are blue and that the Supreme Court is reshaped with the addition of 1 or 2 additional members with the inevitable vacancies that happen over the course of an administration. That is the only way. People ask me, Popok, what is the way? This is the way. I'm not the Mandalorian, but this is the way. It's the only way. Take this information, bake it into your consciousness, the fiber of your being, get angry, and then vote. To paraphrase the great philosopher Barack Obama, don't boo, vote. Don't get angry, vote. And take other people with you when you do it. Otherwise, you're going to have this Georgia decision. Now, on its face, it looked, like a procedural order. But when you look deeply inside of it, it was a complete rejection of the 30 pages that Judge McBurney just issued in Georgia, analyzing why a woman has a fundamental right that's greater than the state's interest in whatever's going on inside the woman, with reference in evoking The Handmaid's Tale, which is becoming less like science fiction and more like a documentary in 22 states. In a half a paragraph, no, 3 lines, the Georgia Supreme Court just said that women don't matter in Georgia, a battleground state, by the way, and have shut the gate again to proper reproductive health. This on the cusp of, there's been at least 2 examples of women in Georgia dying because of their policies. Okay, Amber Thurman and Candy Miller are dead and have left their remaining children motherless because of the policies of Georgia and the Georgia Supreme Court. They have their blood on their hands, and other women too. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is, until I found Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zbiotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Now look, I won't lie. I was a bit on the fence about pre-alcohol initially. But then, while hanging out with my fantasy football draft crew over at our favorite Jersey Shore sports bar, I gave it a shot. And believe me, it's the real deal. I spent the entire next day doing all my favorite things with my family, including a long hike on our favorite trail. I kept hearing about pre-alcohol, and I wondered what it was actually like. But now that I've tried it, I believe the hype. And with their GMO technology, they will release different products that help address toxic byproducts of modern living in the gut. Go to zbiotics.com/legalaf to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LegalAF at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/legalaf and use the code LegalAF at checkout for 15% off. And all the women in the last year and a half, while the Georgia Supreme Court has dithered, these old white guys have dithered and wrung their hands trying to find a way to bend over backwards to support MAGA's new policy. How many women have had to carry a baby to term that they're not physically, emotionally, or financially able, nor want to carry? How many births are there because of the delay in this law? And now, that's going to continue, that suffering. MAGA always has an explanation. We're for the life of the child as well as the mother. In states where they don't put any money behind adoption rates aren't higher in red states. Adoption rates are not higher in red states. I'll tell you what is higher: infant mortality, childhood poverty, okay? So impoverished children and single mothers without support from social services are very prevalent in red states. What isn't prevalent is the charity that they always talk about, that they're going to provide. They're going to put their arm, like Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court. She adopted like 7 children. Good for her. She thinks she's a role model. Go look up the numbers of adoptions and more importantly, overflowing orphanages run by the state in these states. Restore women to first-class citizenship. That's what Judge McBurney wanted to do, but the Supreme Court has taken it away again. Now we're at one of the most draconian Texas-style abortion bans back on the books, 6 weeks, and they say how callously and cavalierly for these guys to say it on the Supreme Court of Georgia. Well, we'll look at all these issues. We still have time. We should let McBurney do some more analysis and more briefing and more what? More women dying, more babies, unwanted babies being born. Is that what we want for another 6 months or a year? Effectively, they've just changed for the worse the life trajectory of thousands of women in Georgia. And the women of Georgia and the people who support the women of Georgia should make them pay at the ballot box on November the 5th. I used to say, vote the bastards out, make sure the bastard doesn't get in, and that the House and the Senate go blue. Don't worry about everyone's like, well, maybe I'll split the ballot. I'll split the ticket. I want to make sure Kamala Harris doesn't run roughshod. Give her the House, give her the Senate. Let's see what happens. Let her reshape the federal judiciary, reshape the United States Supreme Court to counterbalance what happened under the Trump era. That's still going on today. Give her the House, give her the Senate. Restore your own rights in this country. I know I'm not talking to the Midas Mighty and the legal AFers, but to the extent that I'm not screaming into the void or the transom, which I don't think I am. If you don't like what just happened in Georgia with the Supreme Court, if you don't like what happened at the United States Supreme Court level today, the United States Supreme Court, talk about tone at the top, the United States Supreme Court today, on the first day of its term, the first order of business was to allow women to die in Texas, right? They just ruled that Texas cannot be required by the Biden administration to follow the emergency medical procedure law, EMTALA, to give a woman in an emergency room an abortion if it's going to save her life. That's how draconian, that's how dystopian it is in Texas. One of our sister states, apparently. Although they've been dying to secede, no pun intended, for a long time. I feel sorry for the women in Texas of every political stripe and no political stripe. But when the Supreme Court is saying we're going to block the Biden administration's efforts to apply a federal law to give women protection and make sure that in medical emergencies in the emergency room, they get all care that they need, including an abortion. No, not in Texas, because Texas doesn't allow abortions. So take that medical procedure off the table, even if it saved the life of a woman. That's the tone from the top from MAGA. And so, of course, the other states and their Supreme Courts are following it. And I'm following it too. Right here on Legal AF. New channel for you to get turned on by and for you to subscribe to in conjunction and collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network. Legal AFMTN. We need it more than any other time I can think of. So much overflowing information at the intersection of law and politics. We bring it to you with the law, politics, commentary, and analysis you've come to expect and love and trust over here on the MeidasTouch Network. Now in collaboration with them, Legal AFMTN for MeidasTouch Network. Can't think of a better place. I'm executive producer. I'm curating it. I'm bringing on some great contributors like court accountability to examine the corruption that is inherent within the federal court system and judges all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. Court accountability with their new playlist. We got a new show dedicated to the United States Supreme Court. I do once a week with Dina Dahl called Unprecedented. What else? Examining closely with a searing hot lens of criticism the United States Supreme Court, only on Legal AF MTN. So until my next hot take, until my next contribution on Legal AF MTN, we're doing it every day with hours and hours of programming. This is Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.